History is not set in stone. It is a river with countless tributaries, each decision a fork in its course. What if, at some crucial juncture, the current had shifted? What if the Axis powers, led by Nazi Germany, had emerged victorious from the cataclysm of World War II? This is the realm of alternative history, where we explore the what-ifs that haunt the past. It's a thought-provoking exercise, a way to understand the fragility of our reality and the forces that shape our world. The possibility of a Nazi victory, while terrifying, offers a unique lens through which to examine the war's pivotal moments and the ideologies that fueled the conflict. By rewinding the clock and tweaking the gears of history, we can gain a new perspective on the forces that shaped the 20th century. We can ask ourselves, what if the seemingly insurmountable had been overcome? What if the world we know had been painted in the grim colors of Nazi ideology? One of the most significant what-ifs of World War II revolves around Operation Sea Lion, Hitler's plan to invade Britain. In our timeline, the operation was deemed too risky and ultimately scrapped. But what if it hadn't been? Imagine a scenario where the Luftwaffe, buoyed by early victories, had managed to cripple the Royal Air Force. German troops, ferried across the English Channel, could have potentially landed on British soil. The outcome of such an invasion is debatable, but a successful German landing on the British Isles would have been a devastating blow to the Allied war effort. With Britain subdued, the strategic implications for the war would have been immense. The United States, still reeling from the Great Depression and hesitant to enter another European conflict, might have been deterred from joining the war. The loss of Britain, a vital staging ground for Allied operations, would have been a catastrophic setback. The Eastern Front, a theater of unparalleled brutality, was where the fate of Nazi Germany was ultimately sealed. But imagine if Hitler had not made the fateful decision to invade the Soviet Union, or if he had pursued a different strategy. What if, instead of a full-scale invasion, Germany had focused on securing vital resources in strategic locations? A more limited campaign, aimed at capturing Moscow and key industrial centers, might have crippled the Soviet war machine without overextending German forces. Furthermore, if Japan had attacked the Soviet Union from the east, as Hitler had hoped, the Soviets would have been fighting a two-front war. This could have tipped the balance in Germany's favor, leading to the collapse of the Soviet Union and the realization of Hitler's dream of Lebensraum in the East. The entry of the United States into World War II was a turning point, providing much-needed resources and manpower to the Allied cause. But what if America had remained neutral? The isolationist sentiment in the US was strong in the early years of the war. If Germany had avoided actions that directly threatened American interests, such as the sinking of American ships, public opinion might have been swayed against intervention. Without American industrial might fueling the Allied war machine, the outcome of the war could have been very different. Germany, potentially bolstered by resources from a conquered Soviet Union, might have been able to withstand the British and their remaining allies, eventually forcing a negotiated peace. The price of victory, Germany's internal struggle. Victory, even for a totalitarian regime like Nazi Germany, would not have been without its challenges. The Nazi war machine was fueled by a toxic ideology that bred internal conflicts and rivalries. A victorious Germany would have been a nation riven by internal power struggles. The SS, Himmler's ruthless instrument of terror, might have clashed with the Wehrmacht, the regular army, for control of the newly acquired territories and resources. Furthermore, the Nazi economy, built on plunder and exploitation, would have faced immense challenges in managing a vast empire. The ideological contradictions of Nazism, particularly its racial theories, would have created social unrest and resistance in the conquered territories, further straining the Nazi grip on power. Living under the swastika, a new Europe. In a world where the Nazi war machine had triumphed, Europe would have been reshaped in the image of its conquerors. The continent would have become a patchwork of directly annexed territories, puppet states, and occupied zones, all ruled from Berlin with an iron fist. The racial ideology of Nazism would have been brutally enforced. The Holocaust, already a horrific genocide in our timeline, might have continued unabated, wiping out entire populations deemed undesirable by the Nazi regime. The political, social, and cultural landscape of Europe would have been utterly transformed. Democratic institutions would have been dismantled, replaced by totalitarian rule. Freedom of speech, assembly, and the press would have been extinguished, replaced by the suffocating silence of fear and oppression. The Reich's grip collaboration and resistance. The Nazi New Order would have faced resistance from those who refused to bow to tyranny. However, the nature and effectiveness of this resistance would have varied greatly across occupied Europe. Some, driven by fear or opportunism, would have collaborated with the Nazi regime, hoping to preserve their own positions or benefit from the new order. Others, fueled by a burning desire for freedom, would have joined resistance movements, waging a clandestine war against their oppressors. The resistance would have taken many forms, from armed uprisings to acts of sabotage, from spreading underground newspapers to sheltering those targeted by the regime. The cost of defiance would have been high, but the spirit of resistance, however flickering, would have served as a beacon of hope in a world shrouded in darkness. Section 8. A world divided, the New World Order. A Nazi victory in World War II would have had profound implications for the global balance of power. With Europe under its control, Nazi Germany would have emerged as a dominant force, challenging the existing world order. The United States, having remained neutral or perhaps even negotiated a separate peace, would have likely adopted a more isolationist stance, wary of the new European superpower. The Soviet Union, if it still existed, would have been a shadow of its former self, its vast territories absorbed into the Nazi Empire. This new world order would have been characterized by a tense standoff between Nazi Germany and the United States, each wary of the other's power and ambitions. The fate of the world would have hung in the balance, with the specter of nuclear war looming large. Section 9. The shadow of technology advancements fueled by war. War, despite its horrors, often acts as a catalyst for technological advancement. A victorious Nazi Germany, with its emphasis on scientific progress and military superiority, would have likely made significant strides in various fields. The development of rocket technology, already a focus of German research during the war, might have accelerated, potentially leading to an earlier space race. Similarly, advances in aviation driven by the need for faster and more powerful aircraft could have resulted in the earlier advent of supersonic flight. However, these technological advancements would have come at a high price. The Nazi regime's ruthless pursuit of scientific progress often came at the expense of human life and dignity. The development of new weapons and technologies would have further cemented Nazi Germany's grip on power, posing a grave threat to the rest of the world. Section 10. Cultural cleansing art, literature, and propaganda. The Nazi regime understood the power of culture as a tool for shaping minds and controlling narratives. In a Nazi-dominated Europe, art, literature, and media would have been ruthlessly censored and manipulated to serve the regime's propaganda machine. Books deemed subversive or degenerate would have been burned, replaced by works that glorified the Nazi ideology and its warped vision of history. Artists and writers who refused to conform would have been silenced, their voices replaced by those who towed the party line. The arts, once a source of beauty, creativity, and critical thought, would have become a tool for indoctrination, used to instill fear, obedience, and conformity in the hearts and minds of the populace. The cultural landscape of Europe would have been impoverished, stripped of its diversity and richness, replaced by a monotonous and oppressive uniformity. Section 11. The seeds of discord cracks in the Nazi Empire. Even with its military might and iron grip on power, the Nazi Empire would not have been invincible. The seeds of its eventual decline would have been sown in the very nature of its existence. The inherent contradictions of Nazi ideology, its reliance on terror, and its exploitation of conquered peoples would have created a climate of fear and resentment. Resistance movements, though suppressed, would have persisted, finding fertile ground in the hearts and minds of those who yearned for freedom. Moreover, the internal power struggles within the Nazi leadership, fueled by ambition and paranoia, would have eventually weakened the regime from within. The economic unsustainability of the Nazi war machine, built on plunder and unsustainable resource extraction, would have further contributed to its eventual collapse. Section 12. A world holding its breath, the legacy of victory. In a world where Nazi Germany had emerged victorious from World War II, a pall of fear and uncertainty would have settled over the globe. the world would have been a very different place, shaped by the dark shadow of Nazi ideology. The very notion of freedom, democracy, and human rights would have been challenged as never before. The world would have been forced to confront the terrifying consequences of unchecked tyranny and the fragility of the international order. The legacy of a Nazi victory would have been a world holding its breath, forever haunted by the specter of what might have been. It would have been a world where the forces of darkness had triumphed, leaving an indelible mark on the course of human history. Section 13. The importance of what-ifs, lessons from alternate histories. Exploring alternative historical scenarios, while purely speculative, can be a valuable exercise. It allows us to step outside the confines of our own timeline and consider the myriad possibilities that might have unfolded. By examining the potential consequences of different choices and events, we gain a deeper understanding of the forces that have shaped our world. We can learn from the mistakes of the past, appreciate the fragility of our present, and perhaps even chart a better course for the future. The scenario of a Nazi victory in World War II, while terrifying to contemplate, serves as a stark reminder of the importance of vigilance, resilience, and the unwavering defense of freedom and human dignity. It underscores the need to learn from history's darkest chapters and to remain ever vigilant against the rise of tyranny in all its forms.